The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, my name is Jolene Schaefer and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, Boost In-Office and Remote Work Efficiency, How to Go Paperless in All Departments, presented by Perry-Lynn Silkwood of Alltech. A little housekeeping before we get started. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise down. However, you can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar. To submit a question, look for the questions section in your GoToWebinar. We will answer all questions at the end of the presentation. We are recording this presentation and it will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees as well as to those who registered but were not able to attend. Please take a moment during the presentation to answer our 4 poll questions. With that said, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to attend our webinar. We're here to help you get the most out of your software solutions and help you find an easier way to run your business by providing you software and industry knowledge, tools, and support whenever you need it. We've invited Alltech here today because they're the industry experts on document management. So whether you're here doing research for a new solution or you're just here to learn, we'd like to encourage you to ask any questions throughout the webinar. Lastly, as a quick reminder, SWK is constantly sharing important updates and software tips and tricks on our social media channels. So we encourage you to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Perry-Lynn.
Hey, good morning, Jolene. So nice to spend time with everyone today. So let's see, I want to go ahead and share my screen. So bear with me one moment, and then we'll just get a quick validation that we are live and ready to go. Jolene, is that coming through?
Yep, it looks great.
Okay, perfect. Well, hello, everyone. I am thrilled to be able to just talk with you and share with you a little bit more about DocLink and how it can really help transform your organization and provide not only documents at your fingertips instead of having to go to the office or have someone copy it in email, but also drive business process efficiency by seeing what we can do as it relates to routing documents through an electronic workflow and be able to really give efficiencies to the organization. So here is our roadmap for today. So we're going to cover all of these different possibilities. But first, I'm curious to know what has brought you to this webinar. So we're going to start our first poll. And so Jolene, this is kind of our first poll. So if you can initiate the poll questions, we're going to really utilize technology today, everybody. So I would love for you to participate. But just give us a heads up. What's going on in your offices and in your businesses? What are the issues that you're presently experiencing? Let's start there, because if we know what's happening in your organization, we can share with you better recommendations in terms of how we can help you. So here we are. What's happening in your business? Are you having trouble accessing critical documents? Right? Are your approval processes very manual and inefficient because they're all having to copy documents and put them into an email, or copy documents and put them through some kind of manual process? Maybe you are actually struggling on the collating and the management of documents in order to send to a customer. That can be very time consuming. Maybe it's AP invoice automation that's still kind of the real strong element of where you're trying to go paperless in your organization. Or maybe it's something else. So go ahead and pick, and you might want to pick more than just one answer, and that's totally fine as well. But let's kind of see if we can get some kind of trend. So let's see. Jolene, let me come back to you. How are we doing in terms of our responses so far? Has any particular answer kind of percolated to the top so we can get some synergy going on here?
Yep, we're currently seeing the top 4 questions pretty evenly distributed amongst being selected amongst our attendees.
All right, very good. Well, we can close the poll if you like. Let's kind of continue on. So it's interesting that is all equally dispersed, because when we are looking at kind of all the customers that have purchased DocLink and what's going on in their business, these are what you're seeing on the screen, the reasons why companies come to us, because they have documents being stored in filing cabinets, and clearly that's an issue, especially in today's remote workforce environment. right? That they do want to be able to route documents instead of putting them in that red hot folder and putting them in some kind of cubby. Right now, we need to be super agile in our businesses. And of course, everyone is always focused on driving productivity. So that means eliminating all the fluff or any data entry that's possible. Now, if we look at the bottom here, this automated delivery of documents, it is a painful process when you have an invoice that you're trying to get out, and you then need to make sure that you've joined it up correctly with the right certificate or the right backup documents, and that can be automated, really driving time savings. And of course, people want an application that is deeply integrated into their accounting solution. Why? Well, that's because it's not going to require any additional coding, so that can be really, really powerful. And of course, if you have documents all together in one central library, then it's also going to make audit simple. So let's take a peek now at where can you deploy DocLink in an organization. What kinds of business processes does it actually take care of? And here's the beautiful thing. Even though most companies continue to start in accounts payable to streamline the purchasing or the requisition or the invoice approval process, the basic concepts of DocLink can be used across the organization wherever you're experiencing what I would call paper-based bottlenecks or pinches, right? So take a look here and just see for a moment, take a step back and say, where in your organization are you feeling the most amount of issue? Is it in HR where you need to have more agile access to documents? Is it maybe on expense reports or on the quote to check process? Right, so there are many areas where you can go paperless and drive productivity in the organization. And what I love about DocLink is that we have a saying that's called any document, any process, anywhere. And it really talks about being able to capture all different kinds of documents into the system, put them through some kind of business process, and then integrate it into your ERP. So let's now take a look at a diagram, because I think for some people, the way that they learn best is by visuals. So this particular diagram that you're seeing here kind of shows how we interpret DocLink in an organization. So let's start over here on the left-hand side. If I can find my mouse, that would be helpful. All right, so step number one is we want to capture those documents. Now, if they're already electronic, we don't need to print them and rescan them. It can be brought into DocLink in many different methodologies. But if you're getting a paper document, then yes, we're going to want to scan that in and move it into DocLink. And then that opens up now the possibilities of taking action with that document. So next step is over right here on the top. Do we want to send that document through a particular business process? If so, we can do all sorts of automation just based on what is the business criteria. Do we want to route that document based on a dollar amount or by a vendor or by a customer? So there's various rules that we can deploy. And then once it's gone through that approval process, we want to push that document and the transaction over into the ERP, and then we're able to view it, right? View it in many, many different ways. In the windows in the ERP, that's very attractive for many companies. Also, you can view it right from within DocLink. So there's a web client, we have a mobile application, so all of that is possible, really delivering documents at your fingertips wherever you may be. And then at the very bottom here, we have that concept of deliver. So if we've captured documents into DocLink, at the right time, based on a schedule, we can then distribute documents out to either vendors and or customers based on your particular requirements. So that kind of gives you a little bit about how we think about it. Now I want to take you through kind of a pseudo demonstration. So if kind of the fundamental reason why companies go with DocLink is because they want to have documents at your fingertips, let's look at what that means in an organization. Okay, so we're going to just kind of take a look at this one piece, documents coming into the application, and then being able to retrieve it. And there's all sorts of business reasons and great pieces of functionality that come along with the application. So number one is that you can have very, very tight security. So you can restrict who has access to what documents. That makes that very nice. Number two is that we have a kind of a metaphor of how you look for documents, and it's by document properties. This is very, very powerful and flexible search criteria, so that if you want to look for a document maybe by an order number, that's possible. You can drill down and see all sorts of related documents. Maybe you want to do a broader search by vendor. So the document properties define the documents and make it easy to search, and I'll show you that. Of course, if they're stored electronically and no longer in people's drawers, on their desk, in a filing cabinet, out on the warehouse floor, in an offsite storage location, you're going to have these documents at your fingertips because they're now stored electronically in a centralized library. And I'm going to go over some of the other elements, full text search and version control. That becomes really important as well as we start expanding that umbrella of use cases. Maybe we've got contracts that are stored and now we want to look for certain criteria. And maybe we don't want to use the document properties, but we want to start looking for more abstract information. So all of that is possible. All right, let's talk a little bit more about security. And the reason why is because a lot of times people want to know, well, when I say security, how deep can it go? So at the top level, DocLink is multi-company enabled. So if you have either one company or multiple companies set up in your ERP, then DocLink can acknowledge that. All right, next is role or department. Then you can say what document types should that person have access to. And you could also do some really nice things related to property values and filtering. So even if I'm maybe a department manager and I have access to invoices, maybe I want to segregate that even deeper to say, well, then I can only look at the invoices that have my name on it, versus seeing invoices for everybody. This also becomes really important as we start getting into HR and things of that nature, and really delivering that granular security out to users. So here's a quick little screenshot, if you will, just to kind of show that absolutely the permissions can be quite extensive. This is a beautiful thing because you want to be able to restrict who has access to what documents. All right, you ready for a little mini demo? So let's take a look at what it can look like from the perspective of a couple different end users. Remember, we're going to showcase for you what it means if we're signing in. And the first thing is we're going to sign in by, who's our magical user? The administrator. So as the administrator, right, I have access to all documents that have been set up for me in my organization. And I like this view because I still want all companies looking at DocLink to think very broadly about the possibilities. Even if we start in AP or AR, it doesn't matter because you still have the footprint of an enterprise-wide document management solution. And this showcases all the different document types to kind of help, act as that light bulb moment. All right, now let's show security. Maybe I'm HR. So in HR, I have restrictions, right? So now I can only see those documents that are HR related. Right, so you're seeing it's pretty simple in terms of if I'm customer service, then of course the document types that I have access to are also different, right? So this is just to kind of give you an idea of what it might look like if we're signing in as different users and just highlighting a little bit more about what does it really mean about that secure access. All right, so let's do a little sample. So I'm telling the system, hey, listen, I want to see all documents related to this order number of 171. I'm also using an asterisk to eliminate, any of the preceding zeros, or to say, I don't mind what those other document or the other preceding numbers are. Show me everything with 171. So you see, I get popped up a window with the return set, and then I can hover over that value of 171. And what can happen is that now it's bringing me to all those documents that are related to that order number of 171. And then, of course, I can open them all up as well. So you can see right here on the screen, just within a few basic keystrokes, that you can have real rapid access to information. Now, I took a little bit of a different approach today. I wanted to show you a little bit more on the sales order side of things because I'm going to be going back into AP, and I just wanted to highlight some of the flexibility that's there. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense and you're really seeing the possibilities and just imagining, I'm here at home, right? We're all working from home. What does it mean if I need to have access to a contract, maybe for one of my customers? I can easily search for that in DocLink. Right, now, I wanted to take a moment here and talk about just two basic concepts, and that is document types. Document types are simply the names of documents that occur in our business. AP invoice, check, purchase order, requisition, in this case, sales order, customer PO, right? All of those are sales order acknowledgement. All of those are document names, and those are set up in DocLink. Now over here on the right-hand side of your screen, you see the document properties or property values. This data is what defines documents. It's very powerful because now, just imagine, if I want to look for documents by customer number or customer name, then I have that flexibility. So I just wanted to show that to you because this is a huge differentiator for DocLink in the marketplace, which is giving you this very agile access to documents. Okay, all right, let's continue on. I'm going to keep rapidly moving forward here. So I think in the next part, what I'd like to show a little bit about is the full text search capabilities. Now, this is in contrast to using that transactional data or document properties. So maybe in this case, I want to say, hey, listen, system, I want to see all, contracts related to a particular, term. Then you can do a full text search using, just plain language words if you wanted to. You can also do version control. So if it's part of your business requirement to be able to check in and check out a document and track the version over version modifications to that document, then that is just standard functionality of DocLink as well. So it's just really expanding those functional kind of components, of the search and retrieval functionality. All right. So what's next? So the other kind of powerful thing in the search and retrieval capabilities is this ability to do what we call saved searches. So remember in the top of the hour, we talked about not only having documents at your fingertips, but also driving productivity. And we're really just talking about this one particular piece of functionality, which is documents stored in a centralized library for easy search and retrieval. Well, if you find yourselves constantly going after the same packet of documents, you may not want to, enter in the information and drill down and then open the documents up. So you can do saved searches, which will automatically give you those faster return results. So just really another nice piece of the functionality that really highlights why it's so important to have that electronic document library for you. All right, so what have we talked about so far? We've talked about that you can store documents in one central library. That's pillar number one of DocLink. You've got this amazing configurable security that can help you restrict who has access to what documents. You've got all that powerful and flexible search criteria. We talked a little bit about full text search and version control and saved searches, really giving you documents at your fingertips. And of course, there's that instant access from anywhere. So I showed you our web version, right? But there's also the desktop version and our mobile application, which you can also utilize in order to get access to documents. All right, so Jolene, are you ready for our next quiz? Because I have two polls that I want to do back to back. So first question is, I want to understand for all those people on the phone today, where are you storing your documents right now today? And I'm going to guess that we have probably, I think maybe there will be a split between A and B, but I don't want to steal the thunder from the poll. So let's prompt open those questions, and if everyone can participate, that would be amazing. And then Jolene, when you get some responses, then we can kind of take a look at what the poll for the crowd is today. I think I want to get one of those Jeopardy on hold music buttons. And then that way, when we're doing the polls, we can do the Jeopardy, you know, that song. I don't want to sing it because I'll embarrass myself, but you know.
We're getting a close tie between the top 4 again. So filing cabinet,
Really?
file share,
Okay.
off-site storage, and warehouse floor.
Mm-hmm. So here's my thought on this, right? So when we're talking about A and B, we're really talking about the immediate access to documents in our day-to-day lives. When we're talking about C and D, we're really talking about long-term storage. And here's the other thought process, is think about the financial implication to your organizations, right? How much are you spending on offsite storage, and what would it mean if you could eradicate that? What if you could take those documents off the warehouse floor and put sellable inventory there, right? Or if you're contracting your workspace, that's another implication. So when we're asking these polls, it's not only to get some understanding of what everyone's kind of feeling in the marketplace, but it's also to help you start having those questions about what is the financial impact to your organization, and should you be investing in document management, because there's going to be a clear return on investment. Okay, all right, so let's go to the next poll, because I've already shown you one clear functional pillar about DocLink, and that is having documents at your fingertips. So, oops, you know what, I rapidly move forward. Let's go back. So let's take a look now at, you've imagined where you're storing your documents, and it sounds like they're kind of all over the place at this moment in time. So in your mind, let's talk about the benefits, right? What are you going to be able to achieve by implementing a solution like DocLink? Is it about being able to give your staff, right, more easy access to documents? Is it about saving time? Remember, time equals money. So there's a calculation that we can look to in terms of saying, all right, well, how much time is people spending hunting down, reproducing for documents? And there's a calculation there. Are we looking at reducing file cabinet square footage? I have actually several companies that relocated, and that became a very powerful calculation. Right, so let's see. We've got our poll open, so play along, because I'm always curious to know kind of what is the word on the street at this moment in time and what's happening in organizations. So Jolene, let me come back to you. What's going on out there in poll world, and what are people saying?
Once again, we're getting a 5-way tie between better support remote staff, saving time, reducing file cabinet square footage, repurposing warehouse floor space, and saving money.
All right, well, hey, listen, it sounds like we're kind of really in the right spot at the right time. So for everybody, what I'd like to also invite for you is, if any of these things are resonating, contact your SWK salesperson, right, or account manager, and set up a time where we can really talk about what's happening in your organization. Where are you feeling these paper-based pains and bottlenecks? And then we can gear up for a very specific demonstration on how DocLink can work for you, right, in your organization. And maybe, just maybe, you would be able to reap similar benefits to the next 2 customers that we want to showcase. So in this case, it was a Midwest manufacturer, right? They were had tons and tons of documents in offsite storage. Here's the killer, is that they were spending $85,000 annually, right, in the maintenance and the back and forth of storage of the documents. And so imagine if you could go, you know, just eradicate that. So that's one powerful example. It's okay if your results are not as grand as this, right? we're going to start talking about what it means to put documents through a business process, and there's going to be more value there for organizations. But let me share with you one more little story here. Pinder's Custom Brokerage. So they are heavily reliant on a massive amount of paper because the document set for processing a single shipment can be about 100 to 200 pages. And so they have this situation where they're needing to copy and collate and distribute to all documents to all departments for completion, and then unifying them together. So they, of course, implemented DocLink, and I love their stats, right? Who wouldn't want to go with 99% of having their paper eradicated from the organization and a 95% reduction in time before paying customs? So it was huge for them. So again, reach out to SWK if you would like to see something, have a conversation where we can really get into what's going on in your organization. All right. Are you ready for automatic document distribution? So I'm going to talk about two different concepts here. The most familiar kind of play, if you will, is on receivables, where we're capturing an AR invoice, and that is being sent out to the customer. But here is where DocLink is different, right? And that is that not only can it capture automatically the AR invoice, but it can unify it with any other supporting document that you've already brought into DocLink and send those out together, right, for a better customer service experience. So let me show you what I mean by the end result, right? So what would it mean to your organization if you could automatically, based on a schedule, send an email out to your customer, and then your customer can get an email just like what you're seeing on the screen. It can be personalized to them, right? And then they're able to instantly, pop open the documents that relate. Number one, I think it's going to save a huge amount of time, but it'll also get documents to your customers faster so they can pay you faster. So that can be a real critical piece of the pie. Now, this functionality that I've talked about, capture a document, join it with supporting documents, send it out of the organization. That can also be used when we're talking about a purchase order going out to a vendor, right? So just think about the big concept, which is capturing a document, right? Joining it with other documents to be sent out of the organization, whether to vendors or customers. So a lot of value propositions here on the document delivery side, if this is kind of your hot button. So saving time, that's a huge, huge element, right? The big win and the differentiator is the ability of sending supporting documents along with your primary. So hopefully that makes sense. And then of course it's scalable. So when I talk about scalability, it's taking the concept and then applying it in different ways in the organization. So we talked about the AR side of the house, but you can also do it on purchase orders out to vendors. Gosh, I could even think about more examples. Maybe it's also about sending reports out to various employees as well. Okay, all right, so now let's transition. So we've talked about search and retrieval of documents. We've talked about automatic document delivery. And so now I want to go into kind of like the big piece of AP automation. It is interesting. No matter what opens up a dialogue with a particular customer, it seems like most people do come back and start with AP automation. I think it's because it is just a natural piece of the business that is awash in paper, that it's a very specific, articulated process, and perhaps it's just easier for people to get their heads around. But let's take a look at what I mean by AP automation. So I'm going to start off with a couple diagrams for you. So just to kind of understand, I'm not sure of everyone's role here on the phone with me today. Some people may be on the finance team or the IT side of the house or operations, but here's a traditional kind of purchase to cash or purchase to check process. We start at the top, we've got a requisition or purchase order that's being captured and sent out to a vendor. And then, of course, goods are arriving, and that's typically coming in with a packing slip. And then, of course, if that's the part of the process, there's having to do a receiving entry. And then the invoice finds its way. Now, that invoice, if we're talking about a purchase order-based invoice, it's going to get matched up with those preceding documents. And if it's not preceded by those documents, then we're going to want to send it through the approval process and get that signed off. So off to approvals, comes back to AP, they have to do some physical entry, we're capturing payment, and then it's off to search and retrieval. Okay? So let's go through this particular process and why it's so important to have it all electronic and eradicate all of the manual steps in the process. So number one is we want to capture those documents. So we can either create a requisition using our Smart Form Toolkit. That's a differentiator for DocLink in the marketplace. Or we can automatically capture a purchase order that's coming from your accounting software. That's another differentiator for us in the marketplace. You do have an option of using purchase orders for route in. And then when we get the invoice in, there's a couple different ways that we can capture it. Either importing it from email or leveraging OCR in order to not only import it from email, but use the software to scrape data, and then we can start repurposing that data as well, which is all about driving data entry savings and also performing some automated matching. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So first we capture the document in, right? Maybe it's a requisition. So let's start with the requisition. Jolene, I'm wishing we had done a poll on how many people are using requisitions. So I'll go through this quickly, just in case it doesn't apply to everybody. But here's a traditional requisition process, right? In a manual environment, it might be created in Excel or paper or something else is used. You might want to put that requisition through an approval process, right? How is that done? Well, you're printing that requisition off and putting it in a folder, or you are scanning it into email once all the things have been selected. And then once it's gone through the approval process, you're waiting, right? Waiting, continuing to get it back. And then if it's approved, you can route it off to purchasing. If it's not approved, then maybe it's coming back to you as a declined status, right? So you can already sense in the manual process that there's a lot of manipulation that needs to go on to manage it. When we talk about using DocLink, number one is that you can standardize the request by using what we call a smart form. So there's a couple really important things to point out here. All of this information is configurable. So what we do is we sit with you and we say, what fields are going to be most important for you in your requisition? There's some really nice things also here, and that is that because we are already integrated with many ERP applications or accounting applications, all of these things where there is a magnifying glass are lookups into your accounting software. That's important because you don't want to have to do manual keying. You want to simply be able to either type in a couple digits and tab off to auto-populate, or you can do lookups, and that's really important. Okay, so we come in, we do some selection of information, right? And then when we're done, it's going to create that requisition, and we're off sending it into the approval cycle for that to get approved. Right now, this concept of Smart Form Toolkit, it also can be extended. So we're talking about the absolute fit requisitions. Now we're going to expand on that because this same toolkit can be used anywhere in your organization where you're wanting to create a document. So you see here, I've got some ideas. What documents do you have in engineering? What do you have in HR? We even have a form specific for routing rules. So there's a lot of possibility in buying the software once and then extending it to other areas. So here's another example. Even though I showed you a purchase requisition form, what about importing credit card information, using that data to populate a form and then having your employees attach their receipts to the line level? That's very common. Okay. All right. Purchase order. So we've taken care of requisitions. Now the next document is a purchase order. Because of our integration, right, we're able to capture purchase orders automatically into DocLink. We capture both the document and all of that metadata. Why? Remember that metadata is all about the linking to documents together. It's about linking it to the screen in your accounting application, and it's about giving you that powerful search criteria. So a little bit about the purchasing, right? We talked about requisition creation using SmartForm Toolkit. Why is that powerful? Standardize your process, less data entry, one tool for many uses. And then we also talked about the purchase order capture as well. So it's an automatic process, right? You don't have to sort or enter in email addresses in order to get that out to the vendor. And we can take it one step further. So this is another add-on to search and retrieval. You can use DocLink as a web portal for self-service for both vendors and customers as well. All right, well, let's continue on. So we're going to now move into our invoice processing and why this is so important. So imagine, if you will, that you get invoices sent to you via email. And what happens if we were able to just monitor that email and automatically pull documents into DocLink? Or even better yet, have OCR monitor that email inbox and be able to look at that invoice and then automatically grab data off of it using OCR. So let's take a look at what OCR looks like. OCR, the biggest business benefit is about eradicating data entry. So what has happened is that OCR has digitized the entire image. On the left-hand side here, you see the document properties that have been automatically extracted. So now a user doesn't have to manually input these. OCR has grabbed them, and now we can repurpose them. Now there's two different flavors of OCR. OCR that captures what's called header and footer information. And there's OCR that's very powerful when we start talking about capturing line item information and doing an automated match back to the receiving document and transaction and the purchase order. And then presenting only the things that are not matched to the end user. So right there, you're getting a real powerful kind of automation of the business process because you're no longer having to touch every single document and do a manual match of the invoice to the packing slip to the purchase order. You're letting the system do that for you. That's very powerful. Okay, so here's an example of, oh my goodness, listen, I went into this, I've got 12, right? But there was 13 that was ordered. So there's a match error. So this will pop on the screen for you and really call it out to the end user. But now that we've captured the document, we're going to send it over into the DocLink workflow. Right, so here's an example of all the invoices that have gone to AP for processing. And I can open up any one of these documents and kind of take a look at it. And if I used OCR, the information will automatically populate, based on the information that was captured. I can continue to look at the document here. Here's a nice thing as well. It's over here on the right-hand side, you can see where all the approvals can happen about this document. Let's spend just a quick moment talking about coding and what it means to code an invoice. So here's just an expanded view of our web client and the GL distribution stamp. And you'll notice here that you have the ability to code invoices right within DocLink. Again, using these features in order to be able to do a point and click in order to capture it. You can also do templates so that you don't have to select anything, right? That those codes would automatically be populated. And now that it's coded, we're going to move it through the workflow process. So where does it go next? Do we want to use automation and use the dollar amount or the GL code or other rules in the organization? Or do we want to simply select from the drop-down boxes I'm showing you here? Now, when we send it through an approval process, there's a couple things that can happen. So number one, my approver can get an email alert and say, hey, listen, approver, you've got a lot of documents to take action on, so please get to it. That's option number one. My personal favorite is this option, where they can still get an email alert, but they can approve or approve with a note right within the context, of their email. That's really, really powerful. Or if we want them to go into DocLink and take action, then they can do that as well. And of course, you can do it via mobile as well. So if your workforce is more mobile inclined, then there's a mobile application that can help support that as well. And then of course, it can flow right into the accounting application and be viewable within that screen. So the transaction, there's no more data entry. You have plenty of opportunity to eradicate data entry through all possibilities. OCR, the GL distribution stamp, repurposing data that exists in your ERP, all of that becomes possible. So big, big value propositions of AP automation is automatic invoice and data capture to eliminate data entry. That's huge. And then, of course, we come into the functional benefits of the GL distribution stamp, which allows for coding invoices in DocLink. That's another data entry savings. Using templates, which will really drive productivity. And then we move into the workflow element, really giving your department managers a very simple way to approve invoices and get them back. And if they're involved in coding, no problem. They would click on the link and go back into the system in order to be able to do that coding. And of course, the integration with the accounting software is key. It is called out of the box, or OOB. There doesn't require any additional consulting to make that happen. So there's lots of companies. I think DocLink has over, I think we're actually getting closer to the 4,000 mark, but 3,500 was my last count, right? 3,500 companies using DocLink. And here's one particular case study of how it was being used in accounts payable. So just take a look at these high-level stats. What would it mean to your organization if you could reduce approvals from weeks to mere hours, right? That's really important. No more pushing paper around, right? 30 seconds for invoice retrieval, based on no longer having to go to a filing cabinet or offsite storage. What would it mean to your organization if you could reduce AP processing time by 75%, right? Would that be reason to move forward, and select a software solution, right? So there's a lot of benefits by streamlining the process and really kind of squishing out, wringing out all the inefficiencies from an organization and provide an easier way when we're all working remote. So let's take a look at the last part of our presentation here about what sets DocLink apart and why is it so important to consider as part of your selection process for your organization. So number one is that it's not only about AP automation, right? It is about all documents in the organization. So if you want to buy it for AP, fantastic. But think very broadly about the other use cases in your organization and really get value out of the overall selection and purchase. Number two is you can use OCR and automated matching. So if your organization is heavy on purchase orders and PO-based invoices, this might be something very powerful to consider. You've got a powerful workflow engine, right? That's all about moving documents through a configurable workflow. We don't mind what the document is. You tell us, what is the document type? How does it need to travel between employees in your organization? And this can be set up for you. We talked a lot today about documents at your fingertips and really having powerful search and retrieval so that you no longer have to worry about how was that document labeled on a network file share, or what box is it, in the warehouse floor, or did it get stuck with staples in the filing cabinet? That you've got very agile access, documents right available at your fingertips, either within DocLink or within your accounting software. That's really, really compelling. Smart forms. We talked about smart forms today. This is another differentiator for DocLink in the marketplace. This is the tool set that allows for you to create a form or bring in information like credit card transaction and have that chopped up, sent off to card holders for them to attach the receipts. So that can be very, very powerful for organizations. And we also touched a little bit today on that automatic distribution of documents. And I gave you two scenarios. On the AR side of the house, invoices attached with supporting documents going out to a customer. And we also talked about it being used on the AP side of that house, or purchase orders being sent automatically out to vendors. So that can be a very, very powerful solution. I think many vendors have a slide such as this, but I've actually been with DocLink for 13 years now. It'll be 13 years in October, so almost there. And DocLink is a phenomenal product. I think with a very minimal investment, you do indeed get a world-class product. And so I would really invite you that if anything has resonated with you today, and you're really struggling with your documents, then reach out to SWK and let's set up a call. We would call it a discovery call, where we want to sit down with you, or over the phone, of course, and map out what you're doing today and what are some of the implications that you're experiencing. And then we can come back and do a specific demonstration and highlight how DocLink would work for you. Our implementations are very rapid. We have an aggressive implementation schedule. This is all based on what is most important for you in your organization, and our customer support. So this is headed up by Kathy Champlin in our organization, another exceptional long-term employee. She also takes care of our advanced admin training. She has a team of people underneath her. But we always get exceptional feedback on our customer support, just answering questions very quickly, escalating them if necessary, and just really making sure that we're serving our customers to the very best of our ability. All right, you ready for another pop quiz or a little poll? So Jolene, I'm going to have you get ready for our next poll. So tell me a little bit more about why you signed up for today. Are you interested in taking the next step, which is, hey, listen, you know what, give us a shout, because we want to set up that discovery call and start talking about how DocLink will fit for you all in your organization. It may be that you're just really trying to expand your knowledge, which is completely fine as well. Let's take a look at all that's out there to give you documents at your fingertips and really support the remote workforces that are here today. Maybe your boss made you do it. I think that's a funny one. And then C, of course, that there's an active initiative in your particular department, all the while thinking about if we can solve your departmental issue, that the same solution can be likely enjoyed by other areas in the organization as well. So let's take a look. Jolene, what are we getting? I'm dying to know if we had any responses for B.
No, we didn't. We had about half with knowledge building and the other half that is ready to learn more.
Oh, wonderful. Well, listen, I sure hope that we get a chance to work together. I think that would be fantastic. So why don't we do this? Why don't we open it up for a little bit of Q&A? I think we have a couple minutes left on our session today. So let me know, are there any questions that are there from the audience today? And Jolene, could you remind everyone how to use the chat feature?
Yep, so if you go to the right-hand section of your GoToWebinar dropdown and enter in questions, you can submit any questions you have. And we do have a few that come through, Perry Lynn. The first being, I assume this is a full package purchase, i.e. you can't get it piecemeal.
Oh, got it. Well, you know what? So actually you can buy it more piecemeal. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to showcase different solutions today for everybody. So if you wanted to just buy the core system and AP automation, you can do that. If you just want to buy search and retrieval functionality, you can do that. If you want to buy the distribution pack, you have an opportunity to do that as well. So we think DocLink is, or we say it is a scalable solution. It is modular, and so after talking with you, we can, explain what modules are going to be important for your particular implementation. Yeah, thank you. That's a good question.
We have a few more that's come through. Does this have a vendor portal where vendors can view payment information?
Yes, so thank you. So that would be viewable via our web client. So the web client has a couple different areas of functionality. So yes, it can be used as a vendor portal, but it can also be used as a customer portal. And then of course, web client also can be used by your internal employees as well. So a lot of functionality possibilities there on the web client and using it as a portal.
And then can you go into how long the average setup time is with companies, i.e. configuration, etc.?
Sure. So, and that's a harder question to answer. And the reason why is because we have a very small solution that is intended for like a Sage 100 kind of smaller shop. Plus it can be extended all the way to an enterprise-wide solution where we're doing a whole bunch of smart forms for maybe we have onboarding forms and HR forms and expense reports, and so there's a lot of possibilities there. The best way is to say, depending on what your unique needs are, we would set up a project scoping call, let you know what that could be. It could be as quick as 48 hours, in terms of your implementation. It could be up to 300 hours. Again, it depends on really the complexity of what you're really requesting.
And then one last one. Can you tell us again about document properties? Can I put any document into DocLink, and can you do a wildcard search?
Oh, very good. Okay, yes. So document properties are what defines documents. Any document, any file type, like if you wanted to store videos or pictures, you would even be able to store those in DocLink, right? And then you're just labeling it by the document type and then document properties that define it. But the big thing is that any document, report, form, file type can all be stored in DocLink for easy search and retrieval or to be put through some kind of workflow, i.e. business process. Good question.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Perry Lynn, for your informative presentation and for taking the time to be here today.
You're very welcome. I sure hope it was helpful. Thanks, everybody. Definitely reach out to SWK if you want to get a next step, and we can set up a call and talk further about how we can help you in eradicate all your paper-based business pains and business issues and facilitate a remote workforce. Thanks, Jolene. Goodbye.
Thank you.